Well, a lot of times when people are talking about good, bad movies, in inverted commas, they're talking about movies like Sharknado or Cocaine Bear or even Piranha 3DD. But I kind of don't see those films as good, bad movies in the traditional sense. I see them more as something a little bit more artificial, a little bit more intentional, something more like a cubic zirconia as opposed to a diamond, or an imitation pearl as opposed to the real thing that's been created inside of an oyster, much like an abrasive piece of sand. Real good, bad movies for me are purely unintentional. So there's a lot of things that need to be in place for a genuine good, bad movie to be made. And they're very much accidental in a way, not by design. Generally, a good, bad movie is made by a filmmaker who has a lack of self-awareness, maybe a filmmaker who has a little bit of a narcissistic streak, lives in a bit of a bubble. As I said, very usually quite lacking in self-awareness and awareness of what they're doing. These sort of people don't intentionally think that they're making a bad movie, like the filmmakers that made Cocaine Bear, for example, or Sharknado. These people are purely and simply unintentionally making a bad movie that happens to turn out great. So your films like Sharknado, for example, or Cocaine Bear, or even Piranha 3DD or Iron Sky, these are a bit of a different beast. They're sort of a intentional, strategic, somewhat cynical kind of a endeavour. These filmmakers are trying to make something that's intentionally bad, something that's going to have audiences laughing and so on and so forth. And as a result, there's not always the integrity there that should be there, not always that kind of magic, that lightning in a bottle that you do get from accidental good, bad movies. So the best good, bad movies are made unintentionally by directors that are that are often pretty swept up in their own alleged genius, their own alleged abilities, and usually quite earnest people. Their heart's in the right place. They think they're making wonderful movies. They don't think that they're making bad movies at all. They're usually mad auteurs. They're living quite in a bubble. They're living perhaps with one foot in a different dimension to the rest of us. And that's why you'll see something special result in a lot of these cases. So one of my favourite directors of good, bad movies is a guy called Bruno Mattei, also known as Vincent Dawn, better known as Vincent Dawn. So probably his most famous films are a post-apocalyptic killer rat movie called Rat's Night of Terror. And his other famous movie, which more of you may be aware of, is a similarly apocalyptic zombie movie called Night of the Zombies, aka Hell of the Living Dead, aka Zombie Creeping Flesh. So both great little movies. If you are after an example of a textbook good, bad movie, one of these films that was unintentionally created by one of these mad auteurs who were quite earnest, quite lacking in self-awareness, a little bit crazy, and saw the world quite differently to the rest of us, these two films are good places to start. Probably Night of the Zombies would be a better place to start for you. A little bit more approachable. So basically, the brief at the time for Vincent Dawn with Night of the Zombies wasn't to make a good, bad movie. In essence, the brief was that Dawn of the Dead had done some amazing business at the box office, and his brief was basically to make a rip-off of that, something to ride on the coattails, and to make the best movie that he could, obviously, which is what he tried to do. And needless to say, he did create lightning in a bottle, capture lightning in a bottle with Night of the Zombies, aka Hell of the Living Dead. So the film does tell the story of a bunch of SWAT agents or SWAT troops, SWAT men, a SWAT unit in New Guinea of all places, and very much based on the SWAT guys from Dawn of the Dead, of course, Peter and Roger. And aside from that and the zombies, that's where the similarities really sort of end between Bruno Mattei, or aka Vincent Dawn's Night of the Zombies, and Dawn of the Dead, the inspiration. So this is a truly good, bad movie, and it is far from one of those intentional, overly cynical, cubic zirconia sort of bad movies or imitation Pearl bad movies. Night of the Zombies is a genuine bona fide diamond in the rough. It's a genuine real pearl inside of an oyster. It's an irritating speck of sand that that rubbed inside that oyster and made something very and truly special that'll stand the test of time, like Vincent Dawn's Night of the Zombies. So that's a quality that the movies like Cocaine Bear and Sharknado don't have. They're kind of a little mean-spirited in a way. They feel superior to their subject matter. These are just guns for hire, basically, which, I mean, obviously Bruno Mattei, aka Vincent Dawn, was a gun for hire in another sense, but he was true to his art, a true filmmaker, and quite earnest, quite honest in what he was trying to do, which was make the best Dawn of the Dead ripoff ever. Whereas it feels like the filmmakers that are making things like Cocaine Bear, Sharknado, and so on and so forth, they do feel quite annoyingly cynical, and they feel like they're trying to be above what they're doing, above the audience is another important thing. So these filmmakers do feel like they consider themselves to be better than or above the audience. They're usually frustrated artists that feel above the source material that they're working on. And for my money, at least, the whole experience when you do see these movies, these intentionally bad movies, these cubic zirconias or these imitation pearls like Cocaine Bear and Sharknado, is that the whole experience is unsatisfying, distasteful. These movies are quickly forgotten. And on the other side of the coin, films like Night of the Zombies, aka Hell of the Living Dead, or Rat's Night of Terror by Bruno Mattei, aka Vincent Dawn, well, those are the kind of movies that are going to transcend time. They'll be remembered in generations to come and enjoyed in generations to come. And the ironic thing is that Vincent Dawn, also known as Bruno Mattei to his friends and family, he'll be remembered long after the filmmakers that have made these films like Cocaine Bear or Sharknado or Iron Sky or Piranha 3DD. So if you haven't seen a genuinely good bad movie, if you've only seen these cubic zirconia bad movies from the past decade or so, I'd highly encourage you to check out some genuine good bad movies from back in the day. I mean, there's a plethora of them. Not only Vincent Dawn's movies, there's also, of course, Edward D. Wood Jr. So there's films like Plan 9 from Outer Space, Glen or Glenda, for those of you looking for something really old school. Fast forward a little bit, another good one, of course, is The Room by Tommy Wiseau. So Tommy Wiseau's another good example of one of those filmmakers that didn't feel that he was above the subject. He was trying to make the best movie possible, and somehow fell flat on his face a little, though some would argue that he genuinely succeeded in making a wonderful movie, because it is highly entertaining and highly rewatchable. If you haven't seen The Room by Tommy Wiseau, that's another one to seek out. But again, like Vincent Dawn, he is one of those very earnest filmmakers, and his heart's in the right place, doesn't feel like he's above the audience or considers himself to be above the audience or above the craft. And basically it's what film's all about, which is hopes and dreams and aspirations. And when art house films reach those levels, it's fantastic. But even when these B movies reach those levels, it's truly transcendent, glorious, amazing. Insert whimsical words and adjectives and nouns here. And yeah, so these movies are pretty amazing. So the crux of it is you probably are better to avoid these cubic zirconia good bad movies in inverted commas, these fake mother of pearl good bad movies like Cocaine Bear and Sharknado and so on and so forth, and instead look for the kinds of movies that are that really are those genuine diamonds in the rough, those genuine natural pearls made from irritant sand inside of an oyster. Those films by wonderful directors like Vincent Dawn, also known as Bruno Mattei, and Tommy Wiseau, and also the wonderful Edward D. Wood Jr., Ed Wood, who was immortalised in the Tim Burton film. And there's a bunch of these directors who are worth checking out. People like Herschel Gordon Lewis, for example. And yeah, so Umberto Lenzi. The Italians are especially entertaining because they really are so earnest. I think it's something about the culture. Lucio Fulci, of course, another good one. And the Italians sort of take it to another level again. But thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have a favourite good bad movie, I'd be highly interested to hear about it in the comments. And if you're enjoying this content, please like, subscribe and share. And otherwise, I'll see you next time, and I'm off to enjoy this wonderful natural location.